my time in Ms. Quinn's 8th grade science class, I learned a lot about how students use literacy in science through full class observations and discussions with Ms. Quinn. I focused on the literacy of two students in particular, Miles and Amira. Miles is a typical middle school socialite. His favorite thing to do is hang out with his friends, and he, unfortunately, doesn't read much outside of class. But his 4-year-old brother is just learning to read, and Miles seems excited for him. Miles does have experience reading for school, enough to know that he sometimes reads too fast and needs to slow down if he doesn't understand something. He finds his math textbook to be a challenging read, but the text he uses in science class seems easy for him. Like Miles, Amira cited hanging out with friends as her favorite thing to do, but she also enjoys reading outside of school, especially comic books. Her English class challenges her because of the amount of work that's assigned, but she feels confident with the text used in science class. When she encounters a word she doesn't know, she uses context clues to try to understand the word and the rest of the sentence it's in. She knows reading and writing are important throughout life, mentioning that her mom uses these skills to fill out job applications. I learned a lot about Amira and Miles from watching them work on a review packet for their final exam. Their teacher encouraged them to work on this packet in groups and discuss the questions with their group members, but this strategy wasn't very successful for either of them. Miles participated with his group, but not in talking about science. His focus was on the newest gossip and friends passing by in the hallway. Amira made more progress on the packet, but not through interacting with her group. Whether unintentionally or because she knew she would be more productive on her own, Amira worked by herself. She often looked through her workbook while she answered the questions, seeming to do fairly well with finding answers she didn't know. I suppose their final exam scores will show what they learned while working on the packet, but I suspect Amira got more out of the work time than Miles did. Amira's effort on the review assignment was reflected in the piece of her work I looked at, a test she had taken over the class's volcanoes unit. Her grade of a 92% makes it clear that she takes pride in her work, and she approaches her science literacy and science knowledge seriously. In terms of content area literacy, she might benefit from more practice on how to break up sentences, since I saw that her essay response contained a run-on sentence. And although she has good disciplinary literacy skills, shown by her ability to read and understand science content, she may benefit from being more engaged in group work so that when she does struggle with a text, she knows how to get help from others. I did talk with Ms. Quinn a little about why Amira seemed so reserved, and I learned that she isn't that way with everyone. Amira is good friends with the students she sits next to in class, and they are apparently almost inseparable. I noticed when they sit together they talk a lot during class, but Ms. Quinn says Amira has been a really good influence on her friend in terms of applying herself to schoolwork. Although Miles' score of 82% on the test wasn't quite as good as Amira's, I was surprised at how well he did given how unfocused he was during the review time I observed. I learned that while group work time may be distracting for Miles, he pays attention during class and possibly spends time outside of class working on the material, enough to demonstrate that he knows most of the information. I think learning about study skills may help him improve his grade even more, and I think he would also benefit from learning how to use group work time effectively as a study technique. Miles clearly cares enough about what he's learning to pay some attention, but he needs help reinforcing the information. I learned a lot about teaching content literacy during this experience. I saw the students use several different strategies, some at their teacher's request and some by their own choice, and I saw each student benefit from different strategies. Amira was successful just using her textbook as a resource, but it sounded like she would also benefit from group discussion of texts and questions as long as she was working with people she was comfortable with. Miles was less successful at group work, but he clearly benefited from in-class lectures and discussion, and maybe from work on his own. I learned that teaching content and teaching content literacy requires encouraging students to use strategies that work best for them, but also that a combination of several strategies may have the greatest effect on helping students learn. If I were the teacher, I would give students the opportunity to use whatever strategy they felt worked best. I would also want to pay attention to which strategies those were for each student. I saw that students sometimes tend towards strategies that they enjoy but may be less useful, so I'd want to be able to guide them back to the strategies I knew would help them most. I would probably want to know what strategies they were learning in other classes such as English so I could help them apply them to science as well. Through this project, I've learned that literacy encompasses a lot of different strategies and applies to a lot of types of content, and it's something I will definitely keep in mind when I start teaching on my own.